Happy Sunday, witches. And while the Christians are in church telling women that they need to follow their husband's lead, we're going to learn more about women in witchcraft. And we'll be reading from my first edition of Dion Fortune's Applied Magic. Now, first, you should know Dion Fortune predates Gerald Gardner. She was not a Wiccan. She was stubborn, she was brilliant, sometimes she could be arrogant, but she was completely self made. Long after her death, her books were still being published, which is this one I have here. Just to be clear, I don't think Dion Fortune considered herself a witch. She was actually a ceremonial magician. What makes her important is that she was an assertive woman within a patriarchal occult system, and she also frequently pushed women up into leadership roles. She also helped lay the groundwork for modern Wiccan structures. In this chapter in Applied Magic, she's trying to explain the Eastern concept of karma. She acknowledges that to Western people, it is a complicated subject and it's hard to explain. She believes in reincarnation and she believes that we are here to learn lessons. She says there are certain things you are wise not to meddle with. The occultist does not try to dominate nature, but to bring himself into harmony with these great cosmic forces and work with them. You can see an illustration of this if you watch the Thames barges pushing off when the tide is on the turn. They are taking advantage of their knowledge of the tides, and the river does the rest. Us in life, we should have the same knowledge and wisdom. We ought to understand these natural laws of the unseen. They are natural laws, and there is nothing spooky about them. We can make life a very different thing if we do understand them. Of course, there are certain conditions we must accept that are the fruits of karma. I do not want you to take karma in the crude way in which it is sometimes put forth. It is not a question of murder for murder, that if you steal from a person in this life, that same person will steal from you in the next. It's not as simple as that. It means that something in your nature has got to be realized and changed so that you shall be in harmony. As long as that particular factor is in your nature, it will precipitate a similar sort of trouble in your life. Errors of intention, deliberate wrongdoing are usually paid for in future lives. You may get away with it in this life. We have all seen the wicked flourish like a green bay tree, but the effect of that goes on. It is put down into your account, and in due time you have got to pay. But payment is always in spiritual values. You learn that you have got to make certain adjustments, and when you have done this, the pressure eases up and you are free. Point by point, we gain character and equilibrium. We win our freedom by learning the lessons life forces on us. And if we refuse, they become more and more drastic. When people have arrived at a certain degree of development, they are more sensitive and have more spiritual force, and so their problems are more acute. The soul may have decided to go rapidly on, brings down in a concentrated form all the karmic due. Trouble seems always to come down on this soul, and through an incarnation of trouble, the soul is purified, and then the next incarnation opens up free of these conditions. A single incarnation does not flourish us with a clue, but leaves us with a sense of injustice. But if we see all our past lives stretching out, we see differently. We should always look at things in the light of 3 lives, and we can achieve our purposes in 3 lives too. We are making the condition for our next life now, though in the present we have to take all or part of the karma left from the last one. Skipping ahead a bit here. We think we would be happy if certain things changed, but no, the conditions are in ourselves and would only bring other similar conditions back. When I was working in a nerve clinic, we saw this happen over and over again. The same sort of trouble kept recurring in the same life. There was one woman who had been attacked by tramps 3 or 4 times in her life. This does not happen to everyone in ordinary course of things. Or again, a woman may be continually falling under the power of a bully and be treated with cruelty, first a father, then a husband, and then in her work. We see one particular form of trouble recurring again and again in one person's life. There must be something which determines the recurring experience. If we, most of us, look back through our own lives, we can see this to some extent at least. There must be some prominent factor in our own makeup which draws from the invisible forces. The only way to deal with these is by changing your character, by meditation, by building thought forms, or by deliberately destroying what we call the thought forms, which are the channels of the undesirable things towards us. These are the practical applications of occultism, and we do not need to be adept to apply these. We are making thought forms one way or the other all the time. Our thoughts not only influence us, they form channels of ingress and attract the corresponding forces in the cosmos itself. If you surround yourself with hate thoughts, you will be attracting a sort of cosmic hate to yourself. The occultist has a system of labeling these forces. He works all things out. We have such a system in the Kabbalistic tree of life, and the beliefs underlying it can be very valuable in life. They teach the tremendous power of mind and the strict limits in which it works, with which one can do so much. The reason I chose to read from that passage is because Dion Fortune's take isn't the karma in the way Eastern thought defines it. More proto psychology, because Dion Fortune was very heavily influenced by psychology, talking about psychological patterning, how sometimes conscious or unconscious thoughts and repetitions um, call on certain energies or activate certain energies. How sometimes people get into loops of self sabotaging, that there's consequences when you are unaware of these things. While she uses the word karma and kind of wraps it into this reincarnation cycle, what she's really saying is that your internal patterns are going to keep repeating until you become aware of them and then you change something. The thing is, you don't need to believe in reincarnation for the message to land, because if you can just zoom out on your own life and look at the patterns, an occultist, a magician, a witch can then see the pattern and take action to shift it. If you do believe in reincarnation, then she's saying that sometimes souls take on a lot at once. They want to learn their lessons all in one life. Recurring life problems, she does talk about women in both scenarios, but what she's talking about, and this, I think she wrote this in the 1920s, she's talking about like trauma bonding. What she was essentially saying is that like if your internal shadows aren't addressed, then you're going to keep attracting what you know. She mentions thought forms and how Dion Fortune saw thought forms were like energetic constructs. It could be emotional patterns or imprints or psychological habits, which today we call, the manifestation theory. It's all over New Age. It's all about, the intention is everything. What you think about, you bring about. But the magician, the witch, the occultist knows there's more to it than that. But every spiritual practitioner can agree on is that our thoughts do influence things. Just to be very clear, she's not saying that, you have to think all positive and light. Doesn't mean that if you think bad things are going to happen. This is very important. And this is where the modern New Age system has distorted this kind of message. What she is saying is that hatred distorts perception. Hatred changes what you notice, and hate draws you into hate. That doesn't mean that if you have anxiety and you're worrying about something, that thing is going to happen. So, I want to acknowledge the kind of Victorian moralizing that is frequent in early 20th century occult books, but you can still see the kind of bones of the system that we still use today. The most important lesson here, that you are not a victim of fate. You are a participant in your life. Your life is not happening to you. You are co-creating it. You are co-authoring it. And Deanne Fortune is not saying that if bad things happen to people, they caused it. She's saying that the path out is to understand it. So yeah,